Kia ora koutou. Welcome to the 553rd meeting of the Canterbury Regional Council. Ko Stephanie Ricksecker aho. I'm Stephanie Ricksecker, the Chief Executive, and for this part of the meeting, I will be the chair. This meeting is recorded and will be made available on the ECan website. And councillors, please remember to use your microphones when speaking, the button on the right. I've been informed that there is a quorum present, and I'm pleased to declare the meeting open. Before we progress further, can I ask Councillor Korako to open the meeting with a Mihi whakato, followed with a Karakia. Councillor.
Ai miha tu ka koe tumaki e kaunihera taio waita. E miha tu kia koutou o Karakatira o te tepu, e miha tu kia koutou o te whānau tautoko e o mā e miha. Kia hau ki tautoko o te mihi. O te tautoko o te mana whenua, o te whakapi tō te pohapa kai o waro, no maru o mako tere, o te whakaruru hau, o Naiku Ahuri. O reira, o tēnei Karakia, Timatanga e hui e tākata. Ino i tātou. E mua koe i a mātou, e hipoa, e tohutohu i a mātou maki katoa, o koe anō hoki, e whakakawa i a mātou maki katoa. Ia mea timata, ia mea mahi, ia mea whakau ki roto i a koe. Kia piti ai ho ki mātou, i ta ara tonu i ta mea, a ta whaitia nei e koe, ko ihu karaiti nei hoki, tō tātou ariki. Amen. E hi atu kia koutou tātou.
Kia ora. Thank you, Councillor. Are there any apologies? I don't think we've received any. There are no apologies. I'll note conflicts of interests. I've not received any, so no conflicts of interest. We'll move on with regard to public forums, deputations, and petitions because there are none today. And there is no extraordinary and urgent business. We'll now move into the substance of the hui and the report items. In the first, there is item 6.1, which is Councillor membership of Environment Canterbury for the 2022 to 2025 Triennium. These are the official results from the elections. I will not speak further to them. As part of democracy, they come from the electoral officers, and my simple task at this point is to congratulate you as councillors on your election. Well done. Congratulations. Delighted to have you here. If we then move on to the significant piece of work, the declaration of office by councillors. This is page 12 of your agenda, councillors, and councillors will now be invited to come forward to make your declarations. Each councillor I will call in turn. I will do so in alphabetical order by virtue of the fact that that is the fairest way I could come up with in terms of an equitable, fair order. So we will do this with an order. Up here, what we have is both in te reo and in English, we have the declarations, and I will ask you to speak that declaration out loud, and then we will sign those declarations. We will go through these one at a time, and there is also a photograph to be taken for each councillor so that you have this, given the momentousness of the occasion. So, may I first call up Councillor Greg Burns. Councillor, I now ask you to sign the declaration, and I will sign as Chief Executive. As always. I now call Councillor Yayan Cranwell come take the declaration of office. Is it going to? Yayan, you may choose in te reo or in English.
Te reo.
Very good.
Me tūtai ki a koe tūtaunuku, nau I whakatūwhera nei I tēnei hui ki te mihi ki te wahi ngaro hoki, no reira tēnā koe. Kua hau, Yei and John Cranwell, I oti ana ka whai a hau I te pono me te tōkeke. I ruka hoki I te mutuka ke mai nei o aku pukeka. O aku whakatau hoki kia whakatūtuki, kia mahi anō hoki I te mana whakahaere. Te mana whakatau me ka momo mahi kua uhia ki ruka I a hau, kia whiwhi paika mo te takiwā o te kaunihera taiao ki Waitaha. Hei kaunihera o te kaunihera taiao ki Waitaha, e ai hoki ki te ture ka wanataka a rohe, 2,000 ki te ture ka wanataka a rohe whakapai me te hui, 1,987 me ete atu ture anō rānei. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, a tēnā tātou katoa.
Councillor Cranwell, I ask you to sign your declaration. I now call Councillor Joe Davies. Choose to use Te Reo or in
I, Joseph Thomas Davies, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Canterbury region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
So Davies, I now ask you to sign your declaration. Congratulations. I now call Councillor Paul Dici to the table. Choose to speak to her.
I, Paul Brian Dice, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skills and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of Canterbury Region the powers, authorities, and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act of 1987, or any other act.
Councillor Dici, I now ask you to sign your declaration. Congratulations, Councillor Victor. I now call Councillor David East to the table to take his declaration.
I, David Colin East, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Canterbury region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Thank you, Councillor East. Can I ask you to sign your declaration? Congratulations, Councillor. Can I now ask Councillor Grant Edge to come to the table, please? Grant, either in today or in English.
I, Grant Warren Edge, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Canterbury region the powers, authorities and duties invested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Councillor Edge, I now ask you to sign your declaration. Congratulations, Councillor. Well done. I now call Councillor Tutehunuku Korako to the table to take his oath.
Te reo Māori.
Very good.
Ko ahau, ko tūtahaunuku, ko rako, te oti, ana ka whai ahau, i te pono, me te tōkeke, i runga hoki, e te mutunga, ke mai nei o aku pukenga, o aku whakatau, hoki kia whakatūtoki, kia mahi anō hoki, i te mana whakahaere, te mana whakatau, me nā momo, mahi kua, uhia, ki runga, i au, kia whiwhi paenga, mō te takiwā o te kaunihera taiao ki Waitaha. Hei kaunihera o te kaunihera taiao ki Waitaha, e ai hoki ki te ture, ka wanataka ārohi 2002, ki te ture, ka wanataka ārohi whakapai me te hui 1987, me ētahi ture anō rānei.
Councillor Korako, I ask you to sign your declaration. I now ask Councillor Ian Mackenzie to come to the table to take his declaration of office.
I was told I should do it in English.
Very good.
I, Roderick Ian Charles Mackenzie, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Canterbury region the powers, authorities and duties vested in and or imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Councillor Mackenzie, I ask you to sign your declaration.
Charles, same thing.
Yeah, that's coming up. Councillor, congratulations. I now ask Councillor Claire Mackay to come to the table in order to take her declaration of office.
Thank you very much.
Oh, good.
I, Claire Elizabeth Mackay, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Canterbury region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Very good. Councillor Mackay, I ask you to sign your declaration. Congratulations, Councillor. I now call on Councillor Craig Pauling to come to the table to take his declaration.
Koutou. Ko ahau, ko Craig Aaron Pauling. E oti ana ka whai ahau I te pono me te tōkeke, I runga hoki I te mutunga kē mai nei o aku pukenga. O oku whakatau hoki, kia whakatūtuki, kia mahi ano hoki I te mana whakahaere, I te mana whakatau, me nā mō mahi, kua uhia ki runga I a au, kia whiwhi paenga, mō te takiwa o te kaunihera tai o ki Waitaha, hei kai kaunihera o te kaunihera tai o ki Waitaha, e ai hoki ki te tūri kāwanatanga a rohe, ki te tūri kāwanatanga a rohe whakapai me te hui, me ētahi tūri anō rānei.
Councillor Pauling, I ask you to sign your declaration. I now call on Councillor Genevieve Robinson to come to the table to take her declaration of office.
I, Genevieve Ann Robinson, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interest of the Canterbury region the powers, the authorities, and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Thank you very much, Genevieve. I ask you to sign your declaration. Congratulations, Councillor. Well done. I now call on Councillor Peter Scott to come to the table to take his declaration of office.
I, Peter Joseph Scott, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interest of Canterbury region the powers, authorities and duties vested in me or imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information Act and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Very good. Councillor Scott, I ask you to sign your declaration. Congratulations, Councillor. I now call Councillor Vicky Southworth to the table to take her declaration of office.
I, Victoria Catherine Southworth, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Canterbury region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Councillor Southworth, I ask you to sign your declaration. Congratulations, Councillor. I now call Councillor John Sunkel to the table to take his declaration of office.
Thank you. I, John Edward Sunkel, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Canterbury region the powers, authorities, and duties vested in me or imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Very good. Councillor Sunkel, I ask you to sign your declaration. Congratulations. I now call Councillor Dion Swiggs to the table to take his declaration of office.
I, Dion William Swiggs, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Canterbury region the powers, authorities, and duties vested in me and imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, Te Tiri o Waitangi, or any other act.
Councillor Swiggs, I ask you to sign your declaration. Congratulations, Councillor. Councillor Nick Ward, last but certainly not least, I ask you to come forward to take your declaration of office.
I, Nicholas George Ward, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interest of the Canterbury region the powers, the authorities, the duties invested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meeting Act 1987, or any other act.
Thank you. And can I ask you, please, Councillor, to sign your declaration? Congratulations. Well done. I'll say congratulations to all of the councillors who have just declared their pieces of office, and we have those signed declarations. I will just take a momentary adjournment. That's a moment for you to celebrate, but also for me to catch up with our team. So I'll just adjourn for a couple of moments. I'd like to close the adjournment if I can ask everybody back to the table, please. Thank you. Kapai, there was just one slight amendment that needed to be made, and so I'm going to ask Councillor Dion Swiggs to come forward and retake his oath verbally, please. Thank you.
I, Dion William Swiggs, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Canterbury region the powers and authorities and duties vested in and imposed upon me as a member of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, and any other act.
Thank you, Councillor. Congratulations. Thank you, councillors. We will now move on to the election of the chair and the deputy chair. I will note that I sit in this seat only until the chair has been chosen. And as I've said to others, this is an awkward place for me to sit. So I'm quite pleased to relinquish it when I can. I will effectively be asking for Catherine McMillan, our General Manager of Governance, to introduce the report. It is on pages 13 to 15 of the agenda, and the recommendations are on page 13. We'll walk this through because we have a voting system and then nominations to take. It is a process with many steps, and so we'll do them one at a time. Catherine, to you.
Tēnā koutou katoa. The purpose of this report is to advise the Council of the procedure to elect the Council Chairperson and Deputy Chairperson. There are two options allowed. Option A is election by majority of members. Option B is election by the greatest number of votes. You may choose to adopt the same system for Chair and Deputy, or you may use different systems for Chair and Deputy. To clarify the resolution that you are voting on, we have updated the staff recommendation for the options available. And I'll just ask if you could put the updated resolution onto the screen, please. I also gave each of you on a piece of paper this morning. The initial resolution is there as chooses voting system A or B for the election of chairperson and deputy chairperson. If you could show the updated resolution, please. We've updated it to separate out each of the options that you will have. So the resolution will be that the council chooses, in the first instance, voting system A, election by majority of members for the election of council chairperson and deputy chairperson. The chief executive, in her role of chair of this part of the meeting, will ask for a mover and seconder for option for 1.1. If that passes, then that will be adopted. If that fails, we will move to 1.2, which is voting system B, election by greatest number of votes for election of council chairperson and deputy chairperson. If that fails, we'll move to 1.3, which separates out the voting system for chairperson separately from the voting system for deputy chairperson. We have to choose A or B ultimately for the election of the chair. We're just giving you the option of grouping them together or having them separate. Once the voting system is adopted, there is a resolution in the event of a tie, and the resolution 2 is in the event of a tie under voting system A, and resolution 3 is in the event of a tie under voting system B. So we'll work through those ones when we get to that part of the meeting. If 1.3 or 1.2 are adopted, in other words, we choose the voting system for chair only at this part of the meeting, then immediately prior to the election of the deputy, we will go back to this resolution and then choose the voting system for the election of the deputy. And we'll take you through that process if that's the situation. I'm thinking that's probably enough of an explanation. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
No questions from councillors. Very good. Catherine, I'll ask you to leave the table. Thank you. I'll now go through the set of recommendations one at a time. That way councillors can choose which way they prefer to go. So I'll now ask for a mover and a seconder for recommendation 1.1. And that recommendation is a voting system A, election by the majority of members for the election of the council chairperson and deputy chairperson. Is there a mover?
I'd move, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Sunkel. Is there a seconder? All right, I'll take Grant Edge. Thank you very much.
I'll second that, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edge. We have a mover and a seconder. And I recognize those names and those movements. Is there any discussion councillors would like to have? There being no discussion, I will now take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those against say nay. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. As it's been carried, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for recommendation 2. And recommendation 2 being that council agrees that in the event of a tie under voting system A, the candidate to be excluded from the next round of voting shall be resolved by a lot as described in section 4 of the report. Do I have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Sunkel. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor McKenzie. Right, in the context of those movements, are there any discussion to be had? There being no discussion, we will go to the vote. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say nay. The ayes have it. That is carried. Thank you very much. We have our voting process for the remainder of the process. I will now go to seeking nominations. I will call for nominations for the election of the chair. Each mover and speaker will speak to their nomination, and I'll invite nominees thereafter to address the council in support of the nomination. Should we have multiple nominations, we do also have a process for more than 2, and we will carry forward that process. So in the first instance, I now call for nominations for the election of chair.
Tēnā koe. I nominate Peter Scott as for the position of chair.
The second that nomination, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I have a mover and a seconder for that nomination. Are there any other nominations for chair? Councillor Southward.
I nominate Craig Pauling.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
I seem to have a competition. Thank you.
I second it or third it.
To the committee advisor, I will take Councillor Genevieve Robinson as the seconder for that nomination. Thank you. Do I have any other nominations? Very good. We'll now move to those who nominated to speak in support of their nominee. And I will start in the first instance with Councillor Korako.
Ai mihi atu kia koutou anō. Madam Preliminary Chair. First of all, I want to acknowledge the fact that what I'm doing here today has been a very, very difficult decision, particularly if I take it from my whakapapa, particularly if I take it from my place of tangata whenua, of mana whenua, and particularly when I take it by where, as Ngāi Tahu ka te mamoi Waitaha, I should, in some ways, actually support my whanaunga. Now that is from a place of where
a number of us here, maybe all of us, in some ways are branded by association. And when I mean that, if I belong to an iwi, if I belong to a hapu, if I belong to a whānau, or if I actually belong to a political party. Although the history of the Ngāi Representation Bill, I've straddled that from the beginning. Some people in this place have short memories as to why I actually left Parliament. But the other part of this is that we should not just be talking about one specific factor. We should not be thinking about what is the status quo here today at this table. What we should be thinking about when we take this vote is actually the hikoi or the journey that this has actually, where it's come from and where it is actually now. And so the preliminary meetings yesterday, I thought were very, very helpful, because then it gave the opportunity for each candidate to actually speak to their council colleagues as to why they aspire to be the chair of Tony Heda, Taio, or Waita. And in that was actually something that I would believe myself is so imperative at this time, at this triennium of 2022 to 2025. There is no other time of this council where we need strong leadership and governance. There is no other time as a Ngāi Tahu councillor that I actually feel that there is a big guillotine laying over my head. Because what I mean by that is that we probably have 1 year, because there are various political parties that actually are talking about repeal of that act. And so we only have a short time, not just the 2 appointed councillors, but this whole te tepu, this whole table, to ensure that we are making concerted steps towards what you all fought for. What you all fought for to get this bill through. And so it has been a difficult decision for me to stand up here today and to not support my whanonga. But in that is a situation where I've probably been cruel to be kind. And to also say that his time will come. Because when I do the comparison from yesterday and the corridor that we had, the things that came to me that we need to think of, not actually in silos or in isolation, but in the bigger picture. And they are experience, strong experience in this role. Could their experience actually take them and actually make them the head, the leader of this group in that role? And so with Peter, he ticks the box, because 3 terms here in this council, over 4 years as deputy chair. So that's the first part. The next one is governance. His governance experience across 2 major entities. The next box is networks. His networks across government, Crown, local council. Mana whenua, confirmed today by the two Rakatira that came here. And then, to me, Peter represents a common vision that we have to make this thing work. Both sides. It has taken so long to get us to this point. We need to be very, very careful now who we are actually going to put into the chair's seat. Unfortunately, this will never, ever survive if we actually have, and dare I say it, two mana whenua here in those seats. But I'll say it, because that's a fact. What I'm saying is that here we have someone who has experienced, here we have someone actually that spent the time, as he attested to what Peter Ramsden said. Here we have someone that can traverse this. Here we have someone with strong governance. Here we have someone with strong experience. And that is the person that we need. I withdrew my deputy request to be nominated to be that, because I believe that the two of them together, as Peter as chair and Craig as deputy, that is the real kotahitanga. That is the real partnership. And so we move beyond that to the future. And I come into this real important thing where we come from on Te Ao Māori, and that is tuakana teina. So I stand here as the tuakana, as the representative of mana whenua, and I stand here with all due respect to my whanaunga. And I call upon everyone on this table to think, if we do not actually prove to the real doubters that sit in Wellington, we don't prove it in this short time, well then all of you are dying in the ditch, all of your kōrero, all of you are going to Parliament. And I feel that guillotine, because they've moved it into the square. Let's hope they move it out again if we actually can make the right decision. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of the person that I believe is the one that will be the strong leader in governance, particularly networks. And finally, this is about tikanga as well. This is about finding and keeping the balance. Orera Mihi.
Ngā mihi, Councillor Karakia. Councillor Sanko.
Thank you, Madam Preliminary Chair. That's a very hard act to follow, and Councillor Karakia has said everything that I really wanted to say in seconding the nomination for Councillor Scott to the chair. And so my very brief notes are about leadership within the building, leadership in what we need to achieve as an organisation, that internal stuff. And it's about his wider understanding of what we need to achieve in our communities across the Takiwā. We are from the Clarence to halfway up Danzy's Pass or somewhere. We are not the Christchurch Regional Council. We are not the Greater City Council. We are the Canterbury Regional Council. And we have that guillotine, as Nook talks about, not just over how we perform, how we make this work in progress, but all that legislation, all that change that is coming at us from central government, how we handle that, how we mandate that, how we get those agreements, how we get that co-governance, how we get that partnership working. And I believe Peter has those skills, as he has shown over the last 3 or 4 years in the deputy role, working with our territorial authorities, working outside of the region with our regional sectors, both within the motu, within the South Island and within the North. And it's critical for us as a sector to think more of just ourselves, but what we mean to New Zealand as we look at and need to bring about the change that we need to do. So I absolutely believe that Peter has those skills, those abilities to challenge and to take our message to Wellington, because we do need to talk to Wellington. We do need to challenge. We do need to stand up and fight for Canterbury's rights, not just the things that we know we have to do around water and nutrients and co-governance and all those things. But there are bigger questions, bigger pictures that we need to do. So Peter, for me, brings something beyond his constituency, and we heard that yesterday in the briefing on the bill. We heard that today in the Kororo on the Pai. This is not about your constituency. This is not about your views. It's not about who backs you. It is about us and our leader governing for everyone. And we have heard that Peter can do that. I guess a bit of a whakatauki for me in my role as St John, 40-something years on the road, without I guess, reverence to race, religion or creed. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you are. When I step out on the road, into your home, into your whare, you are the person in front of me. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. You are the person that is in front of me that I need to look after and care for. I believe that Peter brings those skills without prejudice to race, religion and creed. Therefore, I really do support his nomination as chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sunkel. Can I now ask Councillor Vicky Southworth to speak on behalf of her motion for her nominee, Councillor Craig Pauling?
Thank you. I would like to say I've worked with both of these very capable and councillors, both with integrity, and so it's really hard to choose. I will absolutely say that. Councillor Scott has absolutely got the experience as deputy chair, and I've really valued his role in that place. But I feel that we really need a change. We need a new, fresh approach to our work at Environment Canterbury. We've had Chair Jenny Huey, first woman chairperson at Environment Canterbury since 1989. And I feel like actually it's time for some change. It's time for some diversity. And I believe that Councillor Pauling has got absolutely the skills and capability to step up into the role. I personally don't believe in just following the ladder. And I think that we have the ability to work into a role and step up. And I know that Councillor Pauling has absolutely that. I think that he's incredibly fair. As a councillor, I've been very supported by Councillor Pauling. He brings the team together. He can help deliver consensus around the table, but actually you can also drive through change that sometimes consensus isn't enough. We have an environment that's suffering, and consensus tends to work towards a little bit of incremental change, but we actually need to see some serious change. We have a huge opportunity at the moment with the new planning regime that we're working through this term. This is why I stood again for council, because I believe that we absolutely have to deliver, and the government's given us an opportunity to do so. And I believe that Councillor Pauling has got the heart, this experience from his planning work and his environmental work, and the knowledge to really deliver on that. And he has the heart, he has the passion and the drive to make sure that we make the most of this opportunity. And so for those reasons, I would like to suggest Councillor Pauling as the strong candidate from my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Southworth. Can I now ask Councillor Genevieve Robinson to speak to the nomination?
I'm actually used to pushing this button though, but from deputation side. I actually first met Councillor Pauling about 3 years ago from the other side of the table, and it was very difficult as a person in the public or the community who was desperately trying to save the marine environment. to have someone listen to me, and actually Councillor Pauling was one of those people. In fact, he probably was one of the only people who actually felt like he gave a damn. So from where I sit now and from where I sat before, I believe Councillor Pauling has the mana, the integrity. He has the people and the environment at the crux of every single decision he makes. His core is his heart, and that involves being part of Ngāi Tahu. It involves being part of us and all of us. So when I spoke to council about the environment, especially Littleton Harbour, he says, I know that environment well. From his waka ama days, from his fishing, customary fishing days, he understood where I was coming from. He knew the species, he felt the species of the Hector's dolphin, of which I was trying to defend. So from where I sit now, I believe Craig Pauling has a unique empathy and heart that encompasses every single person that sits in this room. His integrity resonates with me every single day that I speak with him. Where he has questions about something quite big, he doesn't pretend that he understands. He digs further, he asks questions of the right people, and he comes back to you. And that is really a really strong part of his personality that I admire. So he not only understands the people of the land, he also believes in the pivotal importance of our unique environment here in Canterbury, including the coast. And I think that's very unique to him. So that's why I am seconding for him as chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robinson. We will now go to the two nominees who have an opportunity to speak. And so that I'm not influencing speaking order, I have asked our council to have the two nominated names put into a magic vessel. And I will ask Philip Maw to select the name. The first selection will be the first speaker. The second selection will speak second. Philip, to you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Councillor Scott will speak first.
Thank you very much. Councillor Scott.
Kia ora katoa, and I must say, I'm humble. Look, by the things you've said about me. I find it very difficult to say those things about myself, but we have had informal discussions, and I thank you for that. I also thank Councillor Sunkel for his words in seconding me for this position. I have got some experience in this role, and I've been deputy chair here for 4 years, and it isn't halfway up Fancy's Pass at all. It's the top of the Lindis job where we finish up. I just put you right on there. So what do I offer? I offer the same thing that I've offered in the last 2 terms. I offer my service to my constituents at home, who I've said to them and made a promise to them, if they need me, then I'm there for them, and I'll give them an answer, even if it's a no, even if I have to disappoint them, I'll tell them and I'll get back to them as soon as I can. And I make that same commitment here today, that if I get the opportunity to serve all of Canterbury, then I'll do that. I think one of the things that was alluded to that we need to concentrate really seriously on is that we've got an outstanding organisation here. We've got some outstanding staff, and I think we need to support them better than what we have done in the past. And I think we need to ensure, and I've said this in my role as chair of the Regional Transport Committee, I think we need to support the city. The city is the heart of the South Island, and then we need to push out from there. Much of the legislation that gets struck in Wellington, as Stephanie will allude to, they lean on this organisation, on our submissions, they lean on our staff's knowledge. MFE have flogged half our staff over the last 18 months, which is a bit of a disappointment to me because we're losing our soul, as it were. But I think we have got that reputation in Wellington. But I think we need to push wider than that. Sometimes Canterbury is seen as being a bit, you know, a bit, you know, on the nose. You know, oh, you can be bastards. You think you know everything. But I think in my conversations with South and Otago and the West Coast, they need us to be front and centre. They need us to lead that opportunity. And as I said on the pie, I think we need to have the opportunity with Ngāi Tahu where we join up with them. I've had that conversation with Otago, Southland and the West Coast, and they're really keen. They're really keen for someone to lead that conversation with Ngāi Tahu, because of this type of idea on the Three Waters. Then if that's going to happen to us through legislation, then we must get on and do that work. And I think that we're in a unique position to do that. Nook's spoken about my governance experience, and I won't go into that. And the challenges are massive for us. They really are. You know, Te Mana Utuwai, Kia Te Kutai, the way that we do things, the opportunity that was alluded to by Vicky in terms of the planning regime that's coming up. We will redo the rivers across Waitaha with our runanga. That's a massive thing for us to do. We've got to remember we're in a governance space. Most of the work will be done in this organisation and with runanga, with the organisations, but we're in a governance space. We need to guide that process, not necessarily interfere with it, because after all, those processes are for the people to start making some of those decisions, as we have in the past with our plan changes. Yeah, and I'll just finally say, I would carry out my duties to you as councillors and to this region to the best of my ability. I would seek to be guided by you. I would allow you to do the work that you need to do, not that I need to do. This is not all my work, it's your work. I will support you in doing that, and hopefully lead us into a better space so that at the end of 3 years we can look back and say, well, it was really successful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Craig Pauling, I now ask you to speak to the nomination.
O tēnā koutou, tuatahi, kanui te mihi kia kōrua, Vicky, Genevieve, mō tō kupu aroha, mō tō kupu mahana ki au, tēnā kōrua. Kia kōrua, Nook, John, nei te mihi kia kōrua hoki, mō tō kupu whakamana o Peter, tēnā kōrua. Tēnā koe, Peter. Hi. It's a finely balanced position. And to all the people in the room, thanks for coming. Thanks for being part of this meeting and watching us get sworn in and watching the drama unfold. Kia ora. Look, this is a time of unprecedented challenge and change. We know that. Most of us here would agree that our waterways are not where we want them to be. Our rivers, our groundwater, our wetlands, they're the things that are in trouble and that need our help. We've got issues with our biodiversity and our biosecurity. We've got wallabies jumping all around down where Peter comes from. We've got issues with, having our manu and our marine environment been in a precarious position, threatened, not being able to be around us. And that's not a thing to be proud of, people. Also got the challenges of our public transport issues, our climate change challenges, and the reform that's coming to us from central government. All of those things are massive. And they need to be met head on. They don't need to have the same old processes and same old thinking applied to them. The status quo is not going to help us there. We need something different. But I understand and value that people need to make a living from their whenua. That's part of life. We can't have people being poor. They need to be well. So we need to find a balance. We need to allow people to utilise land and resources, but we also need to implore them to give back. Because if they don't give back to our natural world, then where are we? And I have that experience in navigating rough waters. You know, I've paddled a few canoes. I sit at the back of the canoe. I'm the steerer. I'm the kai urangi. And when I sit at the back of the canoe, I get to see the whole crew. I have to take care of them. So I know what it takes to keep people together in tough times. When we navigate rough seas, like Justin said this morning. I've been there. I've done it many times. And I know how to keep people together to achieve collective goals. Got a few gold medals, just saying. But I have integrity, and I'm honest. What you see is what you get with me. I'm committed, and I finish what I start. And I offer something different from the status quo that has not been able to find the solutions that we need. We need energy, innovation, courage, and creativity. And I have a track record of doing this over the 20 years of my career, since I was a young fella studying at Tauranga or Naitahu. I've worked with every different group of people across our community. I've worked within communities. I'm the chair of a bunch of community trusts. I'm a founding trustee. When all the other trustees have left, I'm still there. That's because I love what I do. I don't give up. I don't turn away from a challenge. I've worked in the rural community and in the urban community. I don't see a difference because I'm from here. Look at where my marae are. They're not in the city. They're out there. And I represent my rūnanga with the Southern District Council on drainage committees, the very issue that I hate. But I go to those meetings and I stand up because I want to see change. I work within my iwi, of course, across every hapu in Canterbury and the whole of Te Waiponema. I've done work with them. I've worked in every council across Te Waiponema and in Canterbury. I've done work for them. I've helped them. I've worked within and between councils. Work like with this council, with Ahuriri. I wasn't a councillor when that project started. I pushed it to get Ahuriri restored. And when I became a councillor, it was great to be able to be here and see the fruits of that labour. And I've worked within industry and in the private sector as well. So I've got networks all over, across the board. Yes, I may be young, but I don't see that as a limiting factor of where we need to go. That is exactly what I said. Like I said, that's why we're here, aren't we? The issues that have been created are not totally my own, but I don't care about that because I care about the solutions and the outcomes. Governance experience, most of mine's been in the non-profit sector, which is more aligned with what this council does than in business. Like I said, I sit on numerous trusts. I'm the chair of numerous trusts and national charitable organisations. I've been on many boards and working groups and advisory groups, like I said, representing my rūnanga. I've been on the executive of my rūnanga. I know what it's like. Actually, the rūnanga executive is way harder than this, just saying. And so I laugh sometimes when people sort of say how difficult it is in here. I said, I'll try coming out to the marae for a bit. And I've sat on committees of this council and of other councils. Twaihora Management Board, Twaihora Co-Governance Board, the Southern District Plan Committee. I've been on both sides of district plan committees giving evidence. So I know what it's like. And I said yesterday that I also know what it's like to give advice to governors. And I think that gives me an important insight into the work we do. I'll hold people to account. I'll make them do their job so that we get the best information so that we can make the best decisions. I look for solutions and I set goals. I establish outcomes and I work towards win-wins. And I drive hard for achieving outcomes. But in doing so, I hold people together. I uphold mana. I keep focused on what is important and I don't turn away from the challenge. And in terms of, the stuff that's coming from Wellington and the importance of that, I don't deny that. But actually the issues are right here in Canterbury. They're in our waterways. That's where they are. And we have to front up to that. We don't need to run off to Wellington and say we need some changes there, because actually what's coming at us is good change, in my opinion. We need to front up and get on with the work that we've been asked to do for a while now. And we heard the weddle from our mana whenua today, from our papatupu runanga. Yeah, and my last thing in terms of tikanga. I'm going to take another piece of our mātauranga, and that is ka pū te ruha, ka hou te rangatahi. Sometimes the old nets are had it, and you need a new one. So kia ora tātou.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Pauling. I'm going to be very deliberate about this vote. It is a significant vote, as we know. We have two nominees in Councillor Scott and Councillor Pauling. And what I will do is first go around to each councillor and ask whether you vote yay or nay for Councillor Scott. And then I will go around the table again and ask for yay or nay for Councillor Pauling. At the end of that, we will tally the votes and we will determine whether we have a chair. So I will progress this part of the voting. This is for Councillor Scott as chair. Councillor Burns, yay or nay?
Nay.
Councillor Cranwell, yay or nay?
Nay.
Councillor Davies, yay or nay? Councillor Deitcher, yay or nay? Councillor East, yay or nay? Councillor Edge, yay or nay? Councillor Korako, yay or nay?
Aye.
Aye. Councillor Mackenzie, yay or nay? Councillor Mackay, yay or nay? Councillor Pauling, yay or nay? Councillor Robinson, yay or nay? Councillor Scott, yay or nay? Councillor Southworth, yay or nay? Councillor Sunkel, yay or nay? Councillor Swiggs, yay or nay? Councillor Ward, yay or nay?
Nay.
I will now move to the votes with regard to Councillor Pauling for Chair of the Canterbury Regional Council, and I will do the same, asking each councillor. Councillor Burns, yay or nay?
Yay.
Councillor Cranwell, yay or nay?
Yay.
Councillor Davies, yay or nay?
Yay.
Councillor Deitcher, yay or nay?
Yay.
Councillor East, yay or nay? Councillor Edge, yay or nay?
Yay.
Councillor Korako, aye or nay?
Oh.
Oh. It's always good for me to learn te reo. Councillor Mackenzie, yay or nay? Councillor Mackay? Councillor Pauling, yay or nay? Aye. Councillor Robinson, yay or nay? Councillor Scott, yay or nay? Councillor Southworth, yay or nay? He's a yay. Councillor Sunkel, yay or nay?
Nay.
Councillor Swiggs, yay or nay? And Councillor Ward, yay or nay? Nay. Final votes?
Equal votes.
Thank you, councillors. We are now at the point of having equal votes. We now go by virtue of the voting system that was selected to go by voting per lot. That means both of the nominees' names will go into the same vessel and a name will be selected. Upon selection, we will have a new chair. That chair will be asked to come forward and take the declaration and assume the chair, and has the opportunity to speak as the new chair at that time. So I now ask Philip Mall, as our councillor, to come forward and select a name out of the vessel, and that person will be the Canterbury Regional Council new chair. Philip.
Thank you. The bucket is empty at present. Councillor Pauling, a piece of paper with your name will be folded and put into the bucket. Likewise, Councillor Scott, your name will be folded and put into the bucket. Councillor Scott, congratulations.
I now declare Councillor Scott duly elected as chair. Councillor Scott, can I ask you please to the table? Councillor Scott, there is an oath you need to take, a declaration by the chairperson. You can do so either in Te Reo or in English. I ask you to take your declaration.
I'll do it in English. Thank you, Stephanie. I declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interest of Canterbury Region the powers, authorities and duties vested in me or imposed upon me as chairperson of the Canterbury Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information Act, Meetings Act 1987 or any other act.
Councillor Scott, I ask you to sign your declaration of chairperson. Congratulations, Chairman. I am happily vacating my seat.
Hey, thank you. I mean, how lucky can you get? Claire and I last time, and my name came out first to speak, and I thought, no way can you get two in a row. But thanks, Craig. I mean, Craig and I have been pretty close in our discussions about what we want to achieve, and they're similar things, different ways, but similar things. And I think with Craig's guidance, I think that we'll have good council. I think Craig operates in different ways to me, and I just hope that he stays in the fight. I think, as Nook said, you've got a big future, Craig, and I hope you go far. It's a really, really bad way to do this, but I guess I'm happy enough, and I'm happy enough for your support in this room. I don't want to say too much more than that because I spoke on the pie and I spoke here. So I'm going to say some of the things that I said. What I would like to say is that I wouldn't mind declaring a 10-minute recess so everyone get themselves sorted out because we've got a really, really important decision to make with Deputy Chair. So thank you very much. We'll be adjourned. We'll be back here at 25 to 1. Thank you. Not my hurry, mate. If we could be seated, please. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, councillors. It's my first piece of business. I need to call for nominations for the deputy chair.
Kia ora, e te kaiwhakahaere. I would like to nominate Craig Pauling as the deputy chair.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Ian McKenzie. Are there other nominations for Deputy Chair? Thanks, John. There doesn't seem to be any nominations for Deputy Chair. I don't think we need to speak to the unless you want to say something.
Oh, kia ora, I think I covered it, most of it before. But just to say to everyone, all of our councillors, actually, that this here is a moment in time, and then I hope that looks like that Craig will be the Deputy Chair. I won't say that until it's been confirmed, but I wish him well as well and fun. Kia ora.
Like Nook, if in fact Craig is confirmed as the deputy chair, I think we have a very good chair and co-chair team. So congratulate in advance. I will make these presumptuous enough to congratulate you both.
Okay, for a second time, thank you. For a second time, I'll call for nominations, other nominations for Deputy Chair. If there are none, I have a mover and a seconder for Councillor Pauling to be Deputy Chair of Environment Canterbury. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against? That's carried. Congratulations. Craig, I'll give you the opportunity to say a few words.
Ai, tuatahi kahuri au takapokaro ki te kāinga o rehua. He te rangatira Uncle Terry, te toonga whakapapa, te rangatira o te iwi o kaitau Kāti Māmoe Waitaha. Ai, takato I roto I tō waka Whakamutunga. Takato I roto I tō whānau, I tō iwi, I tō hapu. Ai, takato moi mai. So, kia ora everybody. First of all, just got some sad news just before that Uncle Terry Ryan, who was the Ngāi Tahu expert in whakapapa, helped enrol me, helped enrol thousands and thousands of Ngāi Tahu people onto our roll. I remember when I first got the Te Waiponamu house, and I walked into his office. I was lucky enough that he was there that day, and he looked at me and he looked at my bit of paper and he said, "I know who you are." And I was like, "What?" Anyway, and he showed me and he said, "Look, Craig, all of these people that went into making you, they're all important. Not just your Ngāi Tahu whakapapa, your Whakamutunga whakapapa, and your European whakapapa as well." So he taught me the value of genealogy and whakapapa straight away, and I'll never forget that. But he's passed away this morning, and it's a great step for our people. So just want to acknowledge that first of all. Yeah, secondly, well done, Peter. Yeah, what a way to do it, Philip, mate. Hard job there. But yeah, I wish you well, Peter. The things that have been said are true. So it's great that you can now lead, and yeah, happy to support you in this role and support everybody around the table. So kia ora, Peter.
And look, are you happy? Do you want to say something about Terry? That was fine. Interestingly, the first thing I looked at when I sat up here was this. I think we dispensed with it last time. I think you'll see from what Craig just said and what I've said already is that we might have a few battles, Craig and I, but we might have a few battles in here, but we've got a common purpose for Wataha. So that's really great to hear. So thank you for that, and congratulations again, Craig. Can I just now move to 6.4, and this is going to be introduced by Philip Moore, and it's an explanation of statutory obligations as councillors. So Philip.
Tēnā koutou katoa. In your agenda, you will have had the written paper in relation to some mandatory pieces of legislation on which you need to be briefed today. The good news is I will take it that you've all diligently read and considered the paper such that I don't need to read it out to you this morning. But instead, I will give a very brief tour through some critical pieces of legislation. I should flag at the outset that the legislation is far more complex in places and has far more provisions than I will touch on today. And as you continue your journey as councillors, you will get to know some of this legislation as needs must. So in terms of the legislation I do want to touch on today, the first piece is the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act of 1987, affectionately referred to by its acronym LGOIMA. The key point that I'll raise in relation to LGOIMA is that this piece of legislation has as one of its key purposes a presumption that information held by council is made available to those who request that information. It's a purpose built around transparency. And so the balance within this piece of legislation, for the most part, is always in favour of releasing information. That's an important presumption to bear in mind when considering, receiving, communicating, whether that's in writing over email, whether it's by text message or speaking. Information held by council is a very wide category, includes a very wide category of information, and it is all captured by this legislation. The Act itself does have some absolute reasons for not disclosing information, and I want to touch on those two reasons very briefly. The first of which is an absolute reason not to disclose information if that withholding is required to ensure that there's no prejudice to the maintenance of law or to the rights for a fair trial. This issue, to provide some context, may arise, for example, in the context of an enforcement matter in front of council that may end up in front of the courts. There are absolute grounds to withhold information if it's relevant, for example, to a prosecution. The other absolute reason relates to endangering safety of any person. If release of information would endanger the health and safety of any person, then there's an absolute reason to withhold information. There are a number of other reasons for withholding information. Those are not absolute, and they need to be balanced with the public interest of releasing information or withholding information. What I can say is that there is a team of experts here at the council that help respond to requests that are made under this piece of legislation. That team is very knowledgeable and very experienced in terms of handling information requests that do come in, and they are experts in this legislation. So you can have trust and confidence that the legislation in terms of these types of requests are handled sensibly, sensitively, and in accordance with this legislation. There is, of course, a process by which information requests are made in writing to the council, and responses typically within 20 working days. There is also a right of objection if the council does not disclose information, and it's essentially a right of objection to the Ombudsman, who will review the council's decision-making with respect to requests that may result in information being withheld. The final piece I'll touch on relates to what we refer to as qualified privilege, and that covers written statements contained in agenda items or made orally at meetings. Those are protected by a qualified privilege unless statements are proven to be motivated by ill will. I'm going to move on next to the Local Authorities Members' Interests Act of 1968. We refer to that as LAMIA in short. And there are two key rules within that legislation that I would encourage you to familiarise yourself and to always bear in mind when exercising your functions, powers and duties as councillors. The first relates to the rule around pecuniary interests, and the second relates to what we refer to as the contracting rule. I'll deal with each of those. The first relates to matters in which you have a pecuniary interest. Pecuniary interests are interests that involve money, and a pecuniary interest can be a direct matter in terms of an interest that you directly hold, but it also extends to the interests that are held by your spouse. The pecuniary interest also applies to holdings in companies, and there is a threshold of 10% of the shares in a company. So again, bear that in mind. And finally, a pecuniary interest extends to capture if you or your spouse is the general manager or managing director of the recipient of perhaps funding or decisions that are made that might benefit an organisation in the context of a direct pecuniary interest. In the context of decisions around pecuniary interests, the appropriate path to take is to declare the conflict of interest, typically at the beginning of a council meeting, and to take no part in discussion and voting on the particular matter at hand. I turn now to contracts. So the rule around contracts. This legislation is now very old, 1968 from memory, and the contract value has not much changed from the 25,000 that was originally set in place. Now, in today's terms, contracts of that value are more common than perhaps they were back in 1968, but nonetheless the legislation remains in force. The matter here to bear in mind is that any member of council, so councillors or members of a council committee, are automatically disqualified from office if he or she is concerned or interested in contracts with the council and the total payments exceed the $25,000 limit. Now, with respect to contracts, in contrast to the issue over pecuniary interests or the rule around pecuniary interests, there is not the opportunity or the option to simply declare a conflict of interest and not participate. Instead, the path forward in this regard is seeking an exemption from the Office of the Auditor General. There is a process that can be followed both with respect to the contracts over 25,000, but also with respect to matters in which you may hold a pecuniary interest. There are complexities with the application of this legislation, and you will see in the written material reference to some published guidance from the Office of the Auditor General. I would encourage you to read that document and just make sure that this is something that you do keep in mind as you carry out your functions, duties and responsibilities as councillors. Final word on this, if in doubt, ask the question, ask your chair, your deputy chair, talk to another councillor and talk to your legal team. Your legal team here understands the legislation and it's much easier as a general proposition to get an exemption from the Office of the Auditor General in advance rather than retrospectively. So I'd encourage you to take advice from your team here when you need to. I move next to the Crimes Act of 1961, in particular sections 99, 105 and 105 capital A. Those provisions create offences for corruption and corrupt use of information, and the outcome here may result in ouster from office or imprisonment up to 7 years. So again, it should go without saying, but taking bribes for acting in a particular way, not acting, will fall foul of the requirements in the Crimes Act, and it's just something that you do need to bear in mind as you undertake your role as councillors. In a similar vein, the Secret Commissions Act of 1910 remains with us and applies to both councillors and officers of council. And there again, it is unlawful to enter into a contract with a third person and receive a gift or reward from that person as a result of that, or and in addition, presenting false receipts to council creates an offence under that legislation. Up to 7 years imprisonment again, and the triggering of the ouster provisions in the Local Government Act. We move next to the Financial Markets Conduct Act. Here, if the council is offering securities by debt or equity, then councillors may be personally liable with respect to the disclosures made in the disclosure statements. If the council is entering a situation where it is either seeking to offer debt or equity securities, clearly the council would be provided significant advice in relation to the disclosures that are made. That would not be a decision made lightly, but the key point here is with respect to any of those considerations, there is personal liability that does attach to the disclosures that are made. The final piece of legislation that I wish to draw to your attention is the Health and Safety at Work Act of 2015. Here, that Act places a duty of due diligence on, in this context, councillors as officers of the council under that particular Act. The exercise of due diligence requires taking reasonable steps in relation to continuously staying up to date with matters pertaining to health and safety, understanding the work of this organisation in all of its breadth as you get into your roles, and understanding the risks that workers may be exposed to as they undertake the work of this organisation. Whilst I note that the legislation does place responsibility on councillors, it does not impose personal liability with respect to offences under that Act. So we talk about that using the phrase responsibility but not accountability, but I implore you to really consider your responsibility in this regard and ask questions to understand the work of the council to make sure the due diligence that you are required to undertake continues to be undertaken for your term. That brings me to the end of the summary. I'm happy to take questions or otherwise.
Thank you, Philip. Are there any questions of clarification from Philip? David?
Under the health and safety, I note that we have duty of care but not ultimate responsibility. Where does the PCBU status sit? With the chief executive or who?
That's a good question. I can't give you a direct answer to that without going and checking precisely where that responsibility does sit. It's perhaps something I can come back to you subsequently and drop you a note on.
So as councillors, we are not liable for any prosecution under the Health and Safety Act.
That is correct.
It would be helpful.
Yes, my recollection is it may vary depending on the particular matter at issue, and so it may depend on the particular context. But nonetheless, I can come back to you on that.
Any other matters of clarity that councillors will have? Philip? So thank you, Philip. Oh, sorry, Claire.
Just regarding the financial markets conduct, I mean, obviously we would get good advice if we were doing anything there. And it talks about councillors being personally responsible. I'm assuming that's the whole council. So if you didn't agree with it, do you still get caught up? If you're a noted dissenter or something like that, do you still get caught up in that? Like in companies?
That's another really good question. I don't know the answer to that one either. My suspicion is that it may be all councillors in support, all councillors, because it's the council issuing the securities documents. But nonetheless, that's another thing that I can check and come back to you on.
Thank you, Philip. I never thought I'd see you not know, but here we are. Look, we're very, very lucky to have Wynne Williams and Philip Moore as our counsel on these matters. I mean, Philip and his company or his firm operate for a lot of regional councils across New Zealand. So we're lucky to have him just down the road. So thank you, Philip, for that. Seems a bit dry, but I think the underlying thing there is if you're unsure, ask. And we've had these big debates about, interests and, what's predetermination and all that sort of stuff. So thank you for that. I'm looking for someone to move the recommendation that we receive the explanation of local government official information and meetings act 1987, other statutes affecting the members. Someone like to move that, please. Thank you, Grant, and thank you, Dion. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Look, just as a general note, we're running probably 45 minutes behind here. So the person that's responsible for what's going on, Catherine McMillan, the next two items I think are yours. And so while you're explaining these items to us, the standing orders being the first of those, 6.5 on pages 23 to 107. Maybe if there's a lull in the conversation, Catherine, you can tell us what our timings are for photos, lunch, and other things. Thank you.
Thank you. This report presents the current standing orders that were adopted by the Canterbury Regional Council on the 21st of October 2021. The current standing orders remain in force until new standing orders are adopted, and all members are required to comply with standing orders. There will be an opportunity to review standing orders, and we are currently preparing a paper that we will discuss with the chair. Now we have a new chair around that, because our standing orders do need updating. It makes reference to Timatanga, and the local government, New Zealand, has also provided some suggestions for updates for clarity in such matters that we would like to present to you as a council. So this paper is for you to note that you do have standing orders and you are required to adhere to them until they're changed. We are bringing a paper around that.
Okay, thank you for that. Any clarification from Catherine from Councillors? There doesn't seem to be. We'll put those recommendations up on the board. I'll take them as read and look for a mover for those, please. Thank you, David. Seconder, thank you, Dion. All those in favour of those, please say aye. All those against? That is carried. Now moving to 6.6. Is it 6.6 we're on, Catherine? Yes. Yeah, 6.6. So over to you.
Thank you. This one is to set the date of your first council meeting. I know that seems a strange term. The legislation actually talks about this as the inaugural, and your next meeting is your first meeting, and you are required as a council to set it. We are, our recommendation is that that meeting is on Thursday, the 17th of November, commencing at 10:30.
Thank you. Go straight for a mover and a seconder. Everyone's happy with that? So, yeah. Sorry, all those in favour, please say aye. All those against? That is.
We would like to do the group photograph first so that we have all of you together, and then we will work through photographs individually, so starting with the chair and deputy chair. And my recommendation is that while those photographs are taking place, you have your lunch that will be available to you in the lounge already. And then we will commence the briefing. It's currently scheduled for 1:30. That may take a bit longer. I'm going to suggest that we do that at maybe 2 o'clock. We'll allow you time to have the photos, have lunch, small break, and then we'll do the civil defence briefing at 2 p.m.
Councillor's happy with that time frame. We leave here and we're back at 2, and then give you plenty of time to get your makeup on for your photos and get yourself sorted out. So thank you, Catherine, for that. That's some clarity around that.
I just say, please don't all disappear off. Like, we do need to make sure we get the photograph, the group one first and then individually. So, yeah, thank you.
Question of Catherine while she was there. We had a brief chat about the pecuniary interest form, which is a new form as opposed to the old interest form that we had. And there was some suggestion that we might take some advice as to trusts and our roles and responsibilities, just to provide some clarity. Could you just give some advice on how we might proceed with that?
So 2 or 3 of you have mentioned it to me individually. I was going to put to the chair when we have our first discussion tomorrow about whether we actually put a briefing time into that or whether we actually arrange individual times for you to meet with the legal people, because each of you will be different. So it may be that we put a small briefing in to clarify the requirements overall, and then we work individually with you to make sure that you have understood based on your personal circumstances. And I suggest that's with an individual legal person, because you don't necessarily need to, put your discussions out to everybody.
Any other matters for Catherine? Yeah, thank you. We'll move to item 7, which is next meeting. We've confirmed that as the 17th of November, starting at 10:30 a.m. here in this chamber. And with that, I now declare the meeting closed at 2 minutes past 1. And I would ask Nook if he could see us out with or maybe Craig, with a karakia. Nook is deferring to you, Craig.
Kia ora tātou, te karakia whakamutunga o tātou nei hui. Unuhia ki te urutapu nui a tānei, kia wātea, kia māma, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua i te ara takata, koe rai e rongo, whakairia ki runga ki a tīna. Haumi e hui e.
Karakia.